There is. You all set? Thank you, everyone, for coming to Protective and Emergency Services Committee, January 31st, 2024, 12 noon. We'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we start, we would like to thank the chief for all his hard work and diligence and everything that went on with 35-year-old cold case, and we'd like to make that public, Chief. You did a fantastic job, you and the Charlottetown Police Department, and on behalf of us, we'd like to thank you very much for taking your time and effort.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's move right on. Approval of the agenda.
Chair, can I just give a notice? I want to find out where we are with the list of abandoned vacant buildings within the city of Charlottetown. I haven't heard anything about that. We dealt with one, but I know we have a list of 12 or 13, and really like to get back to that because that has been popping up on and off, and I've spoken to some members of council and members in the community that it just seemed to die after we took action on one, so would be appropriate time. So I'd like just to give notice on that. And the other notice is that the discussion we had the other night, this past week, on the relocation of the Charlottetown, sorry, not the Charlottetown, but the Provincial Community Outreach Wellness Comfort Center. I think the total number of police officers will be 6 within the facility off Riverside Drive. And again, will that be just full-time or will it be in and out? Just want to get some more details. I think the deputy mayor and myself are very keen on the process going forward on how we're going to transfer from one location to another and how, the safeguards that'll be set up to ensure public safety and security, not just in that immediate area, but for the whole city. So those 2 items, I don't need any report right now, but just notices that I want to put forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it's already noted by the chief, myself, and possibly Jill, I hope, and we will have that for our next meeting. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Oh, we went through that, sorry. Any of the conflicts of interest?
None.
See none. Thank you. Approval of the previous draft minutes, November 28th, 2023.
Chair,
Yes.
just in terms of those minutes, I wouldn't mind adding to the next meeting an update on where we're at with the Epic electric scooters. I know they had their presentation, and I know they were looking for some change of hours and different things, and I think we ended it that he was going to continue communicating with the Constable Dale Johnson. So if we could add that maybe to the next agenda for an update on where we're at with that, when that goes to council, or whatever other information that we might require going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. It's noted. Okay. Business arising from those minutes, the deputy just brought them up. I guess we'll go right into reports. Operational report, Deputy Chief Kent Mitchell, please.
Thank you, Chair, Your Worship. This report's inclusive from November 20th to December 31st, 2023. We had a total of 15 fire inspections with 2 general inspections, 8 hazard compliance orders issued, and 5 closed inspections. We had 3 plan reviews, 14 fire investigations, and 27 education sessions and fire drills. Emergency responses in that time period were total 133, Station 1 having 53, Engine 1 27, Station 2 with 48, and inspector callouts were 5. And just as an additional note on that, the department had a total of 1,141 calls for 2023. With training, December saw a pause in our regular weekly training And at the end of December, the department took delivery of new rescue equipment. As part of the delivery, an in-service training was provided. And we'd like to thank Mayor Brown and Committee Chair Ramsey for taking part in orientation training session with firefighters and equipment representatives. Thank you both for attending. Firefighter training within the next month will include medical first responder, firefighter level 2, as well as 9 new firefighter recruits began training in January for their level 1 training. Department activities included, participated in the Christmas fire safety display at Home Depot. Also taking place were fire safety presentations at UPEI Kids Campus with approximately 60 participants, as well as a group of 40 students from West Kent School toured Station 1 and received fire safety presentation. Our fire prevention officer, along with our Engine 1 crew, attended Spring Park Elementary, where they visit 6 classes of 15 students. With a fire safety presentation, they met firefighters and toured the fire truck. A group of 40 students from West Kent toured Station 1 and received fire safety presentation. Firefighters also presented the upper room with a collection of cereal boxes. And that concludes the operational report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any questions for the Deputy Chief on that report? See none. Thank you. I guess the next one would be the new initiatives. Fire Chief Tim Mame, please.
Thank you, Chair, Your Worship. Yes, this first, the new fire inspector position is in relation to the 2023-24 budget year. As the report details, we ran a successful competition at the tail end of 2023, and we were able to offer the top candidate a starting position, which was accepted of November 27, 2023. In running the competition, we had 5 very suitable candidates. And what we've looked at towards the end of the year here is an opportunity with the competition having been run and a possibility of being able to increase our staffing in the fire prevention and inspection division, which hasn't been done since 2014, with the 1 position increase since amalgamation. So this was an opportunity with the competition already having been run, a number of suitable candidates in the hopper, and the potential to be able to, on the end of the 23-24 budget, incur the additional cost of approximately, sorry, it's in my report here. For the remaining, it depends on the hiring date for the, at the end of the year, if this were so approved through committee here and again through council. This report has already passed through with approval through the Finance Committee, and their determination was to send it forward with a resolution to council. It had not yet gone through the committee meeting, which is why the report has come forward through here again. And what this opportunity does allow is for a position that, or a couple of positions in the department that are extremely, I guess, overworked with the time of the hours of the day that are available and with the work that's required with new builds, renovations, fire investigations. You heard the Deputy Rymoff, over 14 fire investigations opened during the last period. That all takes manpower or hours to cover off that work, and lots of code review, and also lots of time on scene to complete investigations. So an opportunity to expand the capacity of our inspection and prevention division is what we're looking for with this report, Chair. Happy to
Thank you,
answer any
Chief.
questions.
Yeah, so from what I'm reading is that you have funds to cover this for this year, and then after 2024, it'll be automatically right in there that we look for that?
Correct, Chair. There are enough funds in the operational budget to cover off for the end of the 23-24 budget year.
Well, the 23-24 budget year.
Correct.
Okay.
Going forward with the new 24-25 budget, this would be part of an increase in the operational for salary and benefits. 1 position.
Any other questions on that?
Yeah,
Mayor,
I have,
Deputy-
yeah, thank you, Chair.
Deputy Mayor,
I have a little, just for clarification, so if I'm hearing you correctly, Chief, you're saying that you have enough in your budget with 2 months left of the budget to cover that off. So then going forward in the 23-24 budget, would this be a new initiative? Or would this just automatically increase your budget? And I'm just looking for process here, and is that something that are we empowered to do such a thing, change the, without it going through a budget approval first? I'm just looking for a little bit more information. So I guess my first question would be, if you were to have a second fire inspector position, are you saying that there's enough in your previous budget for this year with 2 months left of what, like 15 or 16,000? Or do you have the full amount to cover the year that's already gone by? I'm just, yeah, I need just a little bit more clarification. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Deputy Yankoff. Yes, the remaining operational budget for the year 23-24, which expires end of March here in 24, we have enough in that operational budget to cover the additional position through the end of the 23-24 budget. As of the 24-25 budget, which would be 1st of April and beyond, we'd be looking for an increase in the amount of, and it states at the back of the report there, approximately 88,000 plus, yes.
So, Mr. Chair, it's a new position. Correct? Yeah, so it's a new, I think that was the deputy's question, so.
Just as a follow-up, Chair, if this is a new position, does this not have to go through the budget process first as a new initiative? Because if we are committed to say yes to the new fire inspector now, then we're actually saying yes to an increase in the budget, but it hasn't gone through council yet. I'm just confused on the process. I have no issue with another fire inspector, and I certainly understand the growth of the city and why it's necessary. I just want to make sure that, if we're applying this principle to this situation, then there's many other committees that could apply the same rationale. So if there's anything additional that can be added for clarification, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you again, Deputy. The only thing I could add is in running the competition when we did in the fall of '23, and with the outcome, with all of the candidates that did apply, is when we revisited with both HR Committee, Finance Committee, CAO, and had the meetings about the possibility of taking advantage of the suitable candidates at this time. We hadn't gone through the new initiative process for the new fire inspector position. It was, I guess, an ask around with all three of the committees involved, Protect Emergency Services, HR, and Finance, about the opportunity to take advantage of one of the positions, and with the finances available through the end of the year, it would be, of course, a new ask for the new year.
Councillor Beck, do you have any questions? I keep forgetting he's not here.
Yeah, I do, Chair. So, Chief, I guess a couple of things. What would the start date? When would you be able to affect this position and get it going?
Thank you, Councillor Beck. We've talked to, just without any sort of detailed confirmation, but in the month of February. We don't have a particular date, but we're hoping to have this through a couple of weeks ago through Finance, and then last week was
A couple of things. What would the start date? When would you be?
sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Beck, you didn't come through clear. Could you try that again, please?
My question didn't go through?
Your second part there.
I think it was a reverberation of my original question, is kind of what it sounded like. It was like an echo of some sort.
That's correct. Chief?
So were you able to get my answer, Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I think you said something about you had hoped to get it into effect earlier, but it had to go through another committee, and so maybe sometime in the month of February, what you said?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, Chief, would this become from an internal, was this an internal competition that you ran, and would this position be coming from our current staffing allotment? And if so, what ripple effect does that have on our staffing allotment within the rest of the department? Kind of a two-part question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you again. This competition was originally posted internally, which was available to all members of the local, which is the CPFFA. There were no applicants through the internal competition, so we went external. It was posted externally, and we received all our applicants in that manner. So it would have no effect on current or existing staffing in any way.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so fill it until the end of March 31st, 2023, and then 2023, or budget year 2024, finish it until March 31st, 2024, and it'll be in the budget for 2024, 2025, correct, Chief?
Which is the ask, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So are you hiring this person, like I think I'm trying to clarify what the deputy was asking, Deputy Mayor. So if we hire this person, it's no longer a new initiative, correct? It's, this position, second fire inspector, will be part of your, will be part of your management group or your inspection group. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Worship. This was not put in as a new initiative in the process last year. We didn't consider the opportunity to expand at that time. We had our other priorities in with supervisory positions and deputy fire chief, so the fire inspector position did not get through with the new initiative proposal for the 23-24. That's why it's come in at the end of the year.
So, Mr. Chair, I think we have to treat it as a new initiative. I think it sounds, again, has the person been hired, has he or she been hired for this second position?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, Your Worship.
You're waiting for a response from today's meeting, correct?
Correct, through council.
Yeah.
Today's-
So we're hiring a new position, a new initiative, prior to it being part of the 2025 budget. That's my understanding. And I think, does that set us up for other departments looking at the same way of doing, new hires? I think we have to be careful with how we approach this and how we act on it and make a decision.
Yeah, and definitely not, Your Worship, definitely not looking to circumvent the system in any way, shape, or form. It was an opportunity with the existing budget at the end of the year with the competition just run to try to prioritize that and take advantage of the opportunity. But understanding the new initiative process, I actually have one for the 24-25 budget, which is my next speaking point, so. if
Well,
that's the
actually,
way-
you have two, because you have a fire inspector that will be a new initiative, but we're going to hire before the budget year 2024, 2025.
Right.
The
I
other
guess-
thing too, Mr. Chair, is that we're still waiting for the arbitrator's report on where we're going with the fire department. How many more firefighters? That's what I'm waiting for, because I think we as a municipality will have to respect the findings or the consequences of that arbitrator's report. So if they suggest 6 more firefighters, well, we can't just say, no, we're going to hire four or 3 or 4. We will have to meet that 6. So I'm just trying to be prudent here, fiscally prudent, because there's a lot of demands coming on the municipal government to, provide more bodies throughout the organization. But there's a cost to that, and either we look at cutting other services or we raise taxes. That's the dilemma I have right now with this first discussion, and I know we'll have the same discussion with this next initiative and also with the police chief.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I don't see a CAO Mohammed here today. Does she, I understand she's unwell. Do we have somebody here? It's been signed off by staff as a recommendation. It'd be nice to have a senior person here to
Dan's
clarify
online.
how this came to be. Like, do we have somebody acting in that role today that
Yeah.
maybe
Dan,
was?
is Dan Jenkins online?
Are you online, Dan?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Want to ask?
The deputy mayor is going to ask, he's going to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm just, you know,
Certainly.
I'm just looking for some clarification around, there was staff recommendation that we should proceed with hiring this person prior to going in as a new initiative, and I'm just wondering, how, does this not go against the hiring bylaw? Like, I just want to make sure that we're following process, and as Chief said, he's not looking to circumvent the process any, but I just looking for a little clarification.
Thank you, Chair, through to the Councillor, Deputy Mayor. I think given the proximity to the finalizing the budget process, your point is valid. Certainly we could defer and senior management could have a discussion, including the chief and the deputy chief, and evaluate the urgency and get back to council with the recommendation.
Thank you, and through the chair. So if I'm hearing correctly, then we would do what his worship had indicated, that both of these positions would be, in fact, new initiatives for the 2024-25 budget. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yes, Chair, through to the Deputy Mayor. I don't think that's an unreasonable request given the time frame. We're handy February, about as handy as we can be without being February, and certainly the deliberations will be, heating up here in the next couple of weeks. So I don't have any objection, but in fairness to Chief Mamie, I haven't been involved in the discussions, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, CAO Mohammed is not able to join us today. So I'm reluctant to make a strong recommendation, but given your questions, I don't think your concerns about including this in the new initiative process as being an unreasonable request.
Chief,
Can I say something?
yes, just 1 second, Councillor Beck. Like, in 2 weeks' time, is it going to make a difference between whether we pass it or not today, or in 2 weeks' time when you can sit down with CAO and maybe Dan or something like that?
Yeah, well, to make things as simple as possible, I guess what I'll do is, taking under advisement the comments from elected officials here and also Dan Jenkins, what I'll do is, if it's palatable to everybody in attendance, I will, with the new fire inspector petition and the new initiative for deputy fire chief, take both of those out of this equation, put them back together, because I didn't have a new initiative form drafted for the fire inspector, as it wasn't coming in that regard. So allow for both of those to be taken back, pulled from the meeting today, and as Dan mentions, after senior management gets together, I'll come forward again with the proper documentation. We'll get it in line with the budget here.
So do we have to defer that, your worship?
No, I don't. I think it's.
Or just let it go as it is?
I would.
You okay with that, Deputy?
I think what that just means is that the chief has two initiatives for this budget process. He's got his inspector as well as his deputy chief, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Beck, sorry to cut you off, but go ahead.
Oh, no problem, Chair. I would agree with that. I think we, just to tag on to what his worship said, we're getting a lot, we're being hit with a lot of requests. And it's going to have to go back through the, senior administration is going to have to take a collective look at this. We're going to have to take a collective look at this. So I would certainly support this going in under the new request, new initiative column, if you will. And I think we have to look at it in the entirety along with all the other requests that are going to be coming at us, because preliminary indications are they're quite substantial. So we'll have to make some decisions as to what gets in and what gets and what doesn't. So I support the conversations going on here today.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. Okay, Chief, we're good with that? Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Your worship, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think we're all very clear on our message that we're not trying to mitigate the response, the efforts from the fire services management team. It's that, as was said many times, there's a lot, and this happens every budget year. You're familiar with it. Lots of new initiatives arrive at the front doorstep at 199 Queen Street, and we just have to, dissect where we want to go. All this is important. It's just, there's a process, and I think that was identified by the deputy mayor that we should follow that process. And so it's uniform and it's consistent across all departments. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I guess the draft operational and capital budget, Chief?
Yeah, Chair, I
Oh,
think,
I'm sorry.
I think the chief has another new initiative that he may want to speak of, too.
Yeah, defer that to both.
Both of them,
Yeah,
okay,
both of them are
gotcha,
gonna be first.
okay.
Defer
My
that till
apologies.
both are together.
Yep,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I can't see your mic. Okay, Chief, I guess.
Thank you, Chair.
This is the fun part.
It is a little bit, and taking into account the 24-25 budget draft numbers that are included in the package, they were carrying forward the potential or the possibility of the new fire inspector in the 23-24 and going forward to the 24-25. So the numbers are a little askew. And just as a caveat there, as well as your worship mentioned, with arbitration still to be delivered in regards to the findings or the deliberations, the end totals for pay and salaries or salary and wages are going to be significantly different with a 4 to 5 year backlog. Basically, it was a status quo budget carrying forward. Hope for one up, but I know we have some IT difficulties. Following along in your budget paperwork, the increases are nominal over the 23-24 budget of 3% approximate, pretty much across the board. The wages, salary and wages, or salary and benefits rather, are going to be an outlier, as I say. As soon as the decision is brought down, as when the HR will be busy working on the new numbers, and we'll be able to pump those all in and have an accurate determination of the go forward for the fire department. But as it stands right now, just carrying off of the revised 24 budget, slight nominal increase in most of the line items. Nothing significant outside of the salaries and benefits, but once again, that would have taken into account a new fire inspector in that position, and also showing the new initiative for a new deputy fire chief in there as well. So those are two new initiatives that will be going forward, and they will be substantiated, and if not carried forward, will be removed from the draft budget numbers. All other budget lines, a very nominal increase, as mentioned, across the operational budget. Volunteer programs, which are volunteer firefighters receptions and awards, recognition awards. Slight increase there. And once again, most of these, if not all, aside from the salaries and benefits, was at a 3% nominal increase. That includes staff development, training, travel, transportation, clothing, our advertising and communications for all of our fire prevention activities, and also all of our fire prevention events throughout the year, change your clock, change your batteries, Christmas safety messages, etc. Miscellaneous, small increase. Projects remained at 50,000. Did not have an increase at that point, simply because our projects have changed. We've taken on the fire underwriters moving forward. Small increase, small equipment. Same thing with radio system maintenance. Gas and oil, which is the volatile numbers, have been up and down, and we'll be working through those closely with our members in finance as well, as well as our repairs and equipment repairs and rentals. None of the repairs, parts, and services are getting any cheaper across, as everybody who has a vehicle or a bicycle at home knows. So for emergency vehicles, longer waits for parts, and more time spent in many cases with the vehicles, in some cases being in limited service. So those costs are all tallied up in the increased use of other vehicles to cover that off. The Water Department services, slight increase there of 3% again. Fire Prevention Bureau, the annual operational expenses, our air supply and services, and emergency operations. Happy to answer any questions in regards to the operational budget for the department. As you can see, all the line items are further broken down in the paperwork included with the reports.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone got any questions for the operational? Councillor Beck, are you good with that part?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just wondering where we are with our that mythical fire underwriter survey that's been going on. Chief, do you have any updates for us on the where we are with that? I know we've had several indications that it would be forthcoming. Is there any more indications in terms of where we are and when that would be prepared for us? I haven't heard anything of late. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Beck. The contract has been signed both by CAO and Mayor Brown. It's been sent back to the underwriters. That has been returned. We now have signed contract, and work is supposed to be taking part and a draft report prepared by late June of 2024.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Your worship?
So, Mr. Chair, back on November 24th and 25th, we had our departmental overview presentations, 2 days. We were here in council, and Chief Mamie presented his top 5 departmental priorities, collective agreement, which we talked about earlier, complete fire service review and adoption by city. So that's underwriters survey, correct, Chief?
Yes, Your Worship.
Complete operational plan, organizational staffing levels in fire protection, fire prevention, and emergency services. Fire prevention and emergency services bylaw revisions. So, and then I see that you did add that you were looking at hiring another deputy fire chief and fire inspector. Just on the underwriters survey, are the terms of references similar to what we did in 2021, Chief?
No, Your Worship. I brought through terms of reference last year for approval by committee on regards to a fire station location and number optimization report. This is about how many fire stations we need in the city and where exactly primarily, or not primarily, but optimally they would be positioned throughout the city. That is what the main thrust and the main report that's going to come out of our underwriters report is going to be concerned with. Back in 21 or 19, I think there were some more questions in around, some staffing questions potentially as a follow-up from the 2007 report. I did not have firsthand in drafting the 2021, I believe you mentioned, Your
Yeah,
Worship.
it was 21, yeah.
That would be the previous chief, but these are new terms and conditions for the carrying out of the report.
Right. But in that 21 report, it did name locations, correct, for our fire stations? I thought it did.
I believe it had the 3 locations, just the 2 current and the 1 parcel of land. This
Right.
is going to look at the city with the current required fire flows for our current building stock and 10-year projections as well in all directions of the city. So this is going to take into account a more fulsome and a more, I guess, pertinent sort of outcome based on today's actual city and the future city, as opposed to the 21, which was looked at what we currently had.
So if, through the chair to the Chief Mamie, the organizational staffing levels and fire protection, that was one of your 5 priorities. So currently, we have 11 career firefighters, 5 entry-level, 2 career fire inspectors, and 1 career fire prevention officer. Now, though, that 12 career firefighter will be adjusted, I'm sure, with the release or the forthcoming arbitrator's report. Have you forecasted any numbers that you might be looking at? Additional 6, additional 9 career firefighters?
Oh, in regards to career firefighters, not until we in fact get a collective agreement in place before we know as a department management what would be the prudent and best use of taxpayers' funds and best use for our operational planning for the department.
Right.
So we haven't broached that at this point, Your Worship.
Yeah, and the reason I ask, during arbitration, you have management and you have your union, your firefighters' union, and I'm sure numbers were, numbers might have come up during the arbitration hearings. I think it'll be a significant, hit to this budget because it'll come after we approve the budget, the decision from the arbitrator. That's my understanding.
We're hopeful of any day now, but I can't comment on
Oh,
when
okay,
exactly.
so
But we've been waiting since before Christmas, so the expectation was be in January. Mind you, we're at the 31st, so.
Okay. And, Mr. Chair, are we also including the capital budget? Is this, you're going to discuss that in the next presentation?
Correct, Your Worship, yes.
Yeah. So the reason I like the 2 budgets together, Mr. Chair, because when you borrow money, you have to pay it back, but you have to pay it back with interest. So that's another cost that we have to factor into all the budgets, especially when it deals with equipment and infrastructure. So I just wanted to make that as a point that we may have to factor that in because I think you're looking at another truck and maybe 2 or that's a carryover from last year. Is that
Correct,
correct,
Your
Mr.
Worship,
Chair?
yes.
Yeah. So I know that'll have to go through finance, but hopefully we'll have that number when it goes to finance with these different requests, that we will have a cost of borrowing for new equipment, new infrastructure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, you want to go right to the capital budget, Chief? Or are you okay, Councillor Beck, with everything? With the operational
That's fine.
and deputy? Thank you. Okay, Chief.
Thank you again, Chair. Yeah, just to discuss capital, and as the Mayor Brown made mention to, the budget presentations that all departments made back in November, our priorities were clearly outlined in that aspect. Also, Mayor and councils, I think, were as well with public safety, fire services, police services being at the top priority. With our capital budget for 24-25, the carryovers in 3 areas, the fire station design and build, that number just increased nominally to carry forward to finish that project off completely, hopefully at the end of fire underwriters. Our fast response craft carryover of that amount, and also fire engine number 2 replacement. The idea or the goal is still to have these tendered and a contract awarded before the end of fiscal. However, with all new truck builds, there are no locked-in pricing in some instances due to the volatility of the market and parts and supplies. The new items of gear are firefighter turnout gear of $125,000, Small equipment budget of $160,000, and an upgrade and purchase of new SCBA's for $90,000. That'll be a 5-year plan over that. And they're not laid out throughout the 4 budget years ahead, simply because of, once again, the volatility, and also with the EMO budget, which is one more down below, EMO capital, just have to do some more, or gather some more information from our assets management manager, assets manager, my apologies. But there are the increases in the capital budget, the asks for the 24-25 budget, and happy to answer any questions that may be out there.
I have one. The fast response craft, that's been going on for years. We still never got one. Well, we have the old one, I guess. And every year it just seems to be the prices, like that's $400,000, and I keep harping on it's federal waters, and is the federal government, did anyone ever talk to them about sort of helping fund this thing? Or is that off the charts, or is that our responsibility? I don't know. Thank you.
Yes, Chair. The number does increase on an annual, but we're very, not just hopeful, but also very confident that we'd be able to bring in a vessel for much less than that. That was incorporating what was originally put into the budget, I think, 3 years ago. We're hopeful, and we should be able to deliver something that's suitable for the public and well under that budget number. There are some revenue sharing streams. We've started down the road last year, and we can definitely follow up on that again in regards to federal monies that may be available for inshore and harbor protection. But that is something we'll follow up on as well, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, because, it's like every bit's going to help, right? And if there is some kind of program out there that we can talk with our federal ministers or something, I would sort of like to explore those avenues if it's possible. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you good? Or no?
I'm good. I just want clarification what you're asking, what you are putting forward back to staff to.
Well, for years, we had the fast response craft, which, that goes in the harbor, as you've seen, and it still hasn't been sort of delivered or bought or anything, and this has been going on for years, and I'm just wondering, it's over $400,000 now, and if they're federal waters, if there's any way if there's any program or something that they can help sort of purchase that with us, like even $100,000 or $50,000 is going to go a long way towards this budget. And I would like those avenues explored, that's all.
So, Chair, if I hear you correctly, we're looking for some clarification around the fire services jurisdiction around, at what point is life safety, like where does the rubber hit the road on is that kind of what we're trying to find out? Because if it is a federal jurisdiction, then I would think that the support from the federal government would probably be there, as it borders on the city of Charlottetown, to protect the folks that are out on the water.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's just because we're the first call that goes in. Am I correct, Chief, if there's something happening in there?
Chair, it's time of year and time of day dependent in many instances, depending on who the call comes from and where it's directed. Through the summer months, there's Inshore Rescue, which is a Canadian federal initiative. So the boat is in the water down there, I think, through till around 2000 hours in the evening, every evening. Beyond that, we would be the call. We also do more than just in harbor. There's many times where we search and rescue for missing casualties anywhere along the waterways that surround the city. But there are some definite inroads we can make, I think, into tying in some partners here and doing a better job of prioritizing what the Charlottetown Fire can commit and what may be able to have to be met.
Councillor Beck?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Mr.
worship.
Chair, yeah, just on page 18, your digital copy. Are you there? You got your digital copy? Oh, no. It's your draft capital budget. So, through the chair to the chief Mamie, I see we have the fire station number 3 design and build still in there. That's good to see that there's hope for it. But when you look at your carryover from 2023, 2024, budget 24, 25, new total budget, EMO, is that a separate budget?
It is, Your Worship.
It is.
Yes.
So is that coming in today? Like I didn't see it.
It's not prepared as yet. I have to follow up more so with our assets manager in regards to all of the outstandings on the generators
Right.
that are used throughout. So I couldn't give an accurate carry forward or an update until I get some more information when we meet.
So will you be coming back at a future meeting with those numbers or before it goes to finance or?
Yes, that would be the intent, Your Worship.
Yeah, I'm very keen on these items. 80 kilowatt generator station 1, 80 kilowatt generator station 2, emergency shelter supply, 125 kilowatt generator police station, Cary and Eastlink generator and electrical, Cody Banks generator and electrical. And there is a program through the chair to the chief of fire services. The province does have a electrical, I think, generator backup. They announced it there when we were up in Summerside during our semi-annual FPEIM, Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities, semi-annual meeting, that we could tie into some of that provincial funding. So please reach out to them because it's for all communities. And I know there would be some, Mr. Chair, there would be some infrastructure within the city, for example, churches, community senators that would really like to be part of, any backup generating funding that they can get. Because with our hurricanes, our climatic change, or climatic storms that are changing how we live in our community are becoming shorter in time frame between one and the other. I think that has to be a priority. So will that be coming, will those numbers be coming in within the next couple of weeks, Chief?
Yes, they will, Your Worship. And just as I might make mention on the Provincial Reception Center Resiliency Fund, which I think is what you're referring to, we are working with many of our community partners to help them tap into that line in regards to reception centers or comfort centers that they may be able to establish and get some backup generation as well. So we are on top of that.
And those comfort centers are not only in winter, but are also in summer. So they're all seasons. We have to stay focused on that, Mr. Chair, because Fiona taught us one thing is that we need to be better prepared, and that's always the case. Being better prepared deals with any situation more effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else, or? Thank you very much. Deputy Chief, thank you. We move on to police. Chief Brad McConnell, would you like to start, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start by saying I certainly understand the challenge that Mayor and Council will have this year with all the staffing needs across the different departments in the city, and certainly police are certainly also going to be asking for additional resources. But to start today, Chair, I'd like to talk to you about an issue we have regarding retention. And to provide some background, the persistent challenge of staff retention and recruitment in Charlottetown Police Services is exacerbating by the dynamic labor market. In an era of heightened competition for skilled professionals, it is imperative not to only attract new officers, but also to preserve the morale and commitment of existing staff. The trend offering higher salaries to new officers, particularly those with prior experience, has led to disconcerting consequences for the CPS. 3 officers departed in the last 6 months of 2023, enticed by external agencies offering more lucrative first-class salaries. The turnover, coupled with earlier departures in 2022, indicates a vulnerability that necessitates a strategic response. The impact on morale, it is certainly crucial to recognize that the recruitment strategy of hiring new officers at a higher pay rates than existing employees can have a detrimental effect on the morale of the current workforce. This scenario may breed feelings of inadequacy, dismissing the sense of appreciation and value among the long-serving officers. Such deficiencies in equity compensation can lead to a sense of frustration and disillusionment, eroding the cohesiveness of the team and potentially undermining the dedication of officers who have invested substantial time and effort in their roles. When existing staff perceives that their commitment and loyalty are not adequately recognized through competitive compensation, it can create a palatable sense of discontent. This distraction may not only impact the day-to-day morale, but also compromise the overall effectiveness of the police services. A motivated and content workforce is essential for maintaining public safety and upholding the integrity of law. Mitigating the impact, in light of these considerations, the proposed solution to accelerate the promotion of existing officers aims not only to address the wage disparities, but also to safeguard the morale of the CPS team. By creating stronger wage parity, the organization communicates a commitment to recognize and rewarding the dedication of its current officers. This approach seeks to foster a positive work environment, reinforcing the value of experience and tenure with the CPS. The interim measure, acknowledging the urgency of the retention issue, is important to note. Until a comprehensive solution is implemented, the current hiring process to hire the 6 new officers cannot proceed. However, it is crucial to underscore that this interim measure should not only overshadow the imperative of resolving the root cause of the retention challenges moving forward with the hiring process, it is a necessary step to address the immediate personnel needs while concurrently developing and implementing a comprehensive retention strategy. The organization must remain vigilant in its commitment to resolving retention issues for the long-term well-being of the CPS workforce. The recommendation certainly is going to have a financial impact. It will not be a new initiative in next year's budget, but would have to recognize that it would have a $36,000 impact on the 2023 fiscal budget. But we would also need to increase the status quo budget moving forward into 2024 by additional $211,000. So the staff recommendation to mitigate the risk of losing valuable personnel, our proposed solution involves accelerating the promotion of 7 CPS officers currently at second class to step of first class. Additionally, five recent CPS hires at third class level would be accelerated to second class. This strategic move aims to establish stronger wage parity with other law enforcement agencies, making CPS less susceptible to talent poaching. While the go-forward cost of this strategy is estimated at $211,000, the long-term benefits in terms of retention and competitiveness could significantly outweigh this investment. This proactive approach ensures CPS remains attractive and competitive employer in this dynamic landscape of law enforcement and recruitment. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
The floor is open. Councillor Beck, you have anything?
Yeah, a couple of things. Brad, you said under the interim measure, acknowledging the urgency of the retention issue, it is important to note that until a comprehensive solution is implemented, the current hiring process cannot proceed. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Can you clarify that for me?
Well, I certainly don't think we should, certainly we're in the need of new officers. But losing officers at the same rate without compensating them because they're leaving because they're not fairly compensated isn't solving our problems. So to hire new ones and lose others because of not fairly compensating with the equivalent experience levels of the new hires wouldn't serve any purpose. And so we need to address both issues, certainly the retention and the compensation issue, before we looked forward to potentially causing morale and discontent within our current agency. So all of this is evolving and certainly, very challenging for not just our police force, but lots of police forces, including our neighbors here in PEI and Summerside.
But just so I understand your classification process, you're a probationary or a beginning constable is a third class, and they go to second class, and the senior classification is a first class constable. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. But essentially what we'd be doing is hiring new officers at second class, hiring experienced officers with the new hires that have more than 2 years' experience at a first class level. And then reflecting on that with this initiative to look at the people within our workforce that are also meet that criteria and making those same rates available to them.
Okay. Just looking at that, I'm not opposed to this, Brad. I think we've experienced some losses here, and I don't see the competitiveness going away anytime soon, or that competition for staffing going away anytime soon. I'd just like to, if we are going to get down this road, I'd like at some point to have a bit of a report or feedback or monitoring of how successful this initiative has been, to see whether it works in terms of A, the retention side, and B, on the improvement of morale, and just to kind of keep an eye on those things, because I think sometimes we can put these initiatives in and then not really monitor them to see what the impact has been. So if we are going to go forward with this, I would like to see that at a later time reported back to us in terms of how successful this initiative has been, just for our information and for your benefit as well, too.
Yes, understood, Chair, and we can do that.
Thank you, Councillor Beck, for those points. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And certainly recognizing the importance and the ongoing struggles that the police service is having and the need for these initiatives. But just in terms of process, going back to what we just discussed with Chief Mamie, the Chief McConnell, rightfully so, has many new initiatives required for this upcoming year with a go forward. So with the promotions or the retention of, the cost to the city in Exeter, $200,000 a year, would it not be better for us to just add this to one of the new initiatives for this year, just that we're being consistent with our process? But recognizing the importance of it, but also, with so close to the end of the fiscal, just adding this as the additional initiative over and above the officers and the liaison officer and the 4 clerks. Just wondering if that is appropriate. Chair.
I don't see an issue with it, Your Worship. Do you have any issues with that? Or Chief?
I think she's asked the question to
Oh,
Chief.
I thought you were asking me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, through me, sorry. Go ahead, Chief.
Chair, Councillor Yankoff, it's certainly, there is a difference with this in that there's more of a sense of urgency to this. We have a hiring process that could be delayed by this, and certainly there's a need to get those officers on the street. And this is not a new initiative. However, it is certainly would be an addition to our starting point that our go-forward new initiatives would be added on to. So there is a slight difference there. But I think it's a different scenario than, there's no new positions in this, but rather an augmenting of salaries of positions that currently exist.
Chair, just to follow up, so in that case, with that explanation, I assume the next step for this would be to move on to finance. So with that explanation, I don't have any issue with this retention ask being moved on to finance. Yeah.
Your worship?
So, again, Mr. Chair, I go back to our meeting there on the 24th, 25th of November, departmental budget overview presentations, police services, the top 6, departmental priorities, staffing, recruitment and retention, capacity building, officers, media and communication liaison officer, road safety, critical incident planning and response, bylaw enforcement enhancement, bylaw enforcement and enforcement, keeping pace with technology, and facility updates, dispatch center and record section. So other parts of your presentation include connections to what you outlined in your priorities. So, Chief, just trying to clarify. So the 6 positions that we approved by council, you're deferring them, and you're asking to, for several $100,000 to up the salaries and benefits to current officers. And then on page 20, I think, is your request for 10 new police officers. So I'm just trying to, can you clarify what we decided, because we wanted, and we heard it, the deputy, myself, and I believe Justin Matart were at meetings relating to the OPS back in February. Then we had a meeting in March. Then there was the July meeting down at the Confederation Center in Memorial Hall. And then there was the meeting that you put on, or you held at Birchwood Hall, Birchwood Junior High School Gymnasium, September 5th. Message was clear. We need more presence. We need more boots on the ground. So can you just clarify, no to the 6, but in your presentation today, you want 10 additional police officers? I'm just asking, Mr. Chair, through you to the police chief, clarification.
Well, Chair, if, in your worship, if we can just park the new initiatives of the 10 for a moment so I can clarify just, so on the 6 new positions approved by council, those were at an increased rate of pay. So knowing that we would have to be competitive to attract those 6. And certainly we need those 6, and we wouldn't want to lose sight. And I wouldn't want to defer, but rather, certainly make note that since we started that discussion, we've seen a loss of staff, and the retention issue has come very prominent. And so as we move towards hiring those 6, we feel it very important to put this initiative forward and augment the salaries of those affected internally to retain them here and not let them be enticed, and certainly maintain their morale level and their sense of worth to our police service and our city by giving them the same equitable pay as the new people we would hire. So I think it's important. I think, certainly it'll have about a $35,000 impact on this year's budget, 2023. But it would add an additional 2011 100,000 to next year's status quo starting budget before the new initiatives were added on. And I know that can have some impact on the consideration of the new initiatives.
Again, Chief, so we're not hiring the 6, but you have to relate the two because the new initiative in your report talks about adding 10 police officers for the 24-25 budget. So is that 10 plus the 6 that we approved, or is that 10 inclusive?
No, that would be 10 additional.
So 16.
Yeah. So the initial population per officer ratios that we provided were showing that we were about 29 officers short of the Atlantic average. We were able to, through hiring those 6 and additional different funding that's been approved, if we hired those 6 and with the different funding from the province, we'd be able to bring that number down to 19. So asking for 10 of the new initiatives would further reduce our number and certainly position us better to be more proactive in our responses to policing in our city. So it is the new 10 is aside from the 6 that were approved.
Yeah, but that's my point. So
Yeah.
for fiscal year 23-24, 24-25, you're asking for an additional 16 police officers. We approved 6. You're asking, and if you go to the KPMG report, I think they looked at 10, correct? So, Chief, again,
Yeah.
it's how much can we absorb?
Yes.
And if we can't absorb it, then absorb that increase or that request for further funding or additional funding. It has to come from somewhere, or we have to look at on the tax side. And I'm looking at a plan after this last year, and the deputy was there at a lot of these meetings, there's a dire need, or there's a shouting from the rooftop call for more police officers on the ground, and we're supporting that.
Yes.
And I think that was quite clear at the end of our 2 days in November, 24th, 25th, that public security, public safety and security were priority number 1, both fire and police. And I just from my academic background as a teacher and as working with the business of family business, you have so much here, like you have to right size what you're going to do. And I think right sizing right now means that 16, and that's why I combined the two of them, that's a lot to absorb. So 6 going forward, yes. But if I go back to your request for 211,000 for 2024 and 36,000 for 2023, can you not find transfers within the existing budget to accommodate that?
Certainly, Your Worship, we're certainly going to try to do that, find the 36 within the existing budget, but it has been a challenging year with overtime rates associated to increased patrols in areas of Houston Street, and we've had some big files this year that have consumed a considerable amount of overtime. So, but we're still optimistic that we will be able to find that money within this year's budget. However, there is the go-forward cost.
Yeah.
And those 6 officers are already built into the go-forward costs that I'll present you later in this discussion. But this 2011 is not until we find some approval from committee and council.
2011?
Yeah, the 211,000. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And Chief, look, I don't think you could find a better group of members of council and the city supporting increase in protection, both the from both fire services and police services. You know, we made a commitment just this fourth quarter to purchase, 8 new hybrids SUVs at a cost of $550,000. And when you add more peace officers or you add more firefighters, there's equipment, there's support staff, all that comes with it. And that's, I'm trying to be realistic here and fiscally prudent to say that, look, we're supporting it, but I think it just has to bleed through over 1, 2, 3 years to get to where we want to be at the end of this council, which is in 2026. So, yeah, and if I look at Summerside has been advertising, trying a new recruiting strategy, and they're providing $10,000 in tuition to assist any new recruits. Look at the RCMP. They got aggressive campaigns to recruit new officers, and it's just with modern technology, social media, everything that's being forced upon our police services and fire services, there's a lot more eyes and ears on what we're doing as a community to protect our fellow citizens. So yeah, look, you're going to park the 6 and then add 10, but in the end, it's going to be an additional 16. And so I'm going to be upfront. To absorb that, it's going to be difficult for me to absorb. We can get maybe a couple more, a multiple of 2, 4, but Chief, we just have to be understanding that there are other departments, Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Economic Development, Planning, Development and Heritage. So there's a lot of demands coming at us. I think we just have to be all, mindful that we have to be very equitable in how we share the new cost, new initiatives. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Your Worship, and certainly that's my opening comments certainly kind of reflected the difficult position mayor and council are in this year with so many staffing requirements and such a growing city. And, certainly we know we have partners within our organization that we have to support also, and certainly we're willing to work with that. But, it's my job certainly to make our needs known and look for support and counsel where we can get it, but also to work with our partners and make concessions where we need to for the greater good of our city. I can tell you we have a team at the CPS that has done more with less for a long time, and they work hard and will continue to do that. And but it is our recommendation that we move this particular to Finance Committee, this augmenting of the salaries on the retention side.
So, are we going to move this on to finance? Or is that what you're asking, Chief? What's our recommendation?
That's, I think, that's the appropriate step,
Yes.
I think, at this point to finance.
But we're supposed to send a recommendation with it, are we not?
I'm in support of moving it up the food chain because that's where it goes. There'll be future discussions because.
Yep, and to his worship's comment, I'd already stated that the retention information that was shared with us by the chief, which is outside of the new initiatives, can I support that move up to finance?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beck, are you okay moving this on to finance?
Yeah, I'm good with the retention part. The 6, 10, 16, whatever number we're looking at, we'll have to. I would agree with his worship. Will. Now again, reiterating my point, what I said to Chief Mamie earlier on. I don't think any of us want to diminish the fine work that's being done by our city police or by our city fire, or any other department for that matter. It's just we have to reiterate once again, I'm hearing a lot of requests that are coming our way and we're going to have to sift through them and figure out which ones we can deliver upon. So I'd love to get to 16. I'd love to get to 29 if we could. But, you know, we have to be realistic in terms of what we can accomplish. We'll do our best to accomplish and see if we can fit it all in, but it's going to take some work.
Thank you, Councillor Beck. Okay, we're moving it on.
No,
Fine.
Chair.
Oh, sorry.
I think you. Yep. So just responding to, through the chair, to Councillor Beck's comments, certainly in agreement to all the comments, but I think to follow along in the agenda, we're at the retention strategy part of it. We haven't gotten yet to the new initiative, so one step at a time. So what I've supported was what we've just discussed, which is the retention strategy, that I support that this being moved on to finance. And now, then our next items on the agenda will be things that we'll be having conversations on, what our recommendations are in terms of moving on to finance. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I appreciate that there's a lot of discussion here because it's very important. But, you know, that's the purpose of a notice of motion. I gave this notice of motion a couple of months ago. And again, all credit to the police services, fire service. But the notice of motion is to say, look, this is what we're looking at. And I know hindsight is 20/20, but now that we're, you know, realigning the decision of council to hire 6 additional officers because of, you know, being caught up with ensuring that our current officers are treated fairly and equally, which we very much support. It's just, that's the beauty of notice of motion, is to get everything flushed out. And that's, you know, that's not just for what discussion is taking place here, but any discussion at any departmental level or anything that we do within this municipal government. So again, let's deal, as the deputy mayor says, let's deal one at a time. And when it comes to the 10, I'm just, you know, I'll move it up, but I'm just cognizant of the fact that we have to understand that, and you know this, Chief, both of you know this, every year it's the same. We're all put into this pressure cooker and we have to make decisions, you know, are we going to allow this to go ahead, allow that to go ahead? At least we're being open and transparent about where we want to go in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Chief. We're moving the first one on up to finance. Now, go ahead, please. Additional record clerks positions. That's what I got. Is that the order? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is a new initiative towards different than the augmenting. This would be a new initiative for additional record clerks to staffing. So in support of the new hires that will occur and have occurred, there's a need for additional support staff. So this briefing aims to outline the imperative of hiring additional records management support staff to effectively integrate and support the influx of new officers into the police services. More dedicated support personnel free up sworn officers to stay focused on their core functions of patrolling and responding to incidents. The decision to augment our police force with new officers is a strategic move to address the evolving needs and challenges facing our community. These new recruits will enhance our operational capacity and ensure a more robust, responsive approach to public safety. The rationale for additional support staff, the successful integration and optimal functioning of new officers, a new officer cohort, necessitate a proportional augmentation of support staff. The following key points emphasize the need for additional support personnel. Administrative support. With the increase in personnel, there will be a surge in administrative tasks such as record keeping, data management, and coordination. To maintain efficiency and accuracy in these areas, additional administration support are essential. Logistical coordination. logistics involved in onboarding, training, and the day-to-day operations for a larger workforce require dedicated personnel. This includes scheduling, equipment, distribution, and facility management, all of which demand specialized support. Enhanced road safety for improved road public safety. Enhanced road presence for improved public safety. Furthermore, the additional support staff is integral to maintaining a strong police presence on the roads. Administrative and logistical staff, when efficiently handled by dedicated support personnel, will free up sworn officers to stay focused on their core duties of patrolling and responding to incidents. This streamlined approach will not only enhance the officers' visibility in our community, but also contributes to the quicker response times and a more proactive stance in preventing and addressing public safety concerns. There is a budgetary consideration for this new initiative, and as outlined in the, as we had outlined these positions and talked about it in our budget presentation that the mayor had mentioned, but they're also outlined in the new position matrix. And there will be a financial implication of $322,672 added to the operational budget for next year if this new initiative was approved.
Councillor Beck.
Just have a question, Brad, in terms of the, under your enhancing road presence for improved public safety, what sort of administrative and logistical tasks can you sort of provide a little bit of a clearer picture in terms of how that would help taking those tasks away? What sort of tasks would be taken away that would allow the police officers to focus on the other duties that you mentioned?
Certainly, Chair, Councilor Beck, there's numerous tasks that could be optimized through additional support staff. Mostly the scoring and of police reports were mandated to score for statistical purpose or reports. A lot of that right now falls in the hands of record staff or officers. We'd like to take some of the burden of that off of them and put it in the hands of record staff. There's also things like access to information requests, disclosure for court purposes, the logging of property, the return of property, the calling back of complainants. There's a variety of tasks that officers could be assisted with by support and records management staff that would free them up to be more present on our roads and have that greater visibility and evidence of policing that our citizens see.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Beck?
That'll do, yep.
Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, and thank you, Chief McConnell, for outlining one of your new initiatives. So if we're doing our work as a committee and we're moving this up to finance, would it be appropriate for us as a committee to look at this, knowing that there's many new initiatives coming through to finance and then back through to council, and understanding that the chief, you know, his hope is for 4, would we be appropriate to recommend to finance for 2, and therefore showing that we're doing our committee work and recognizing that there's many initiatives coming to finance and on to council? I'm just wondering if that's a committee recommendation, or if we prefer just to leave the recommendation as what staff has recommended. So, thank you.
And I agree, that was the question I was gonna ask too, like, I know with all the new hires, chief, and everything that, and I'm not a police officer, so I don't know how the whole operation works, but if we go with 2 this year and maybe look at the other 2 next year, Or is the 4 got to be included all in 1 year? Like there's a lot of big ask here, and I don't know where we're, like I said for years, the money tree died out back, frostbitten, but I don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm in favor of it, even if we went with 2 this year, if you got approved for 2 this year, and then 2 the following year, and, just steps, I guess. That's just my personal opinion. And you as chief maybe says, no, we need the 4 right away, or, like you need your 16 officers right away, so. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
Certainly,
Chair?
Chair. I'm fully aware of our need to find compromises in the go forward for these new initiatives, and I'm certainly would respect the fact that reducing our request to 2 would be I would endorse that is a compromise. Certainly, the 4 would help. I think knowing what our finance and our council are faced with, that we would be content with 2.
Councillor Beck? How do you know?
Just to Councillor Deputy Mayor Yankov's report, I think what's happening with all these committees is the asks are going forward. And we're going to have to look at figuring out what we can accommodate and what we can't. If I understand from what CAO Eleanor said the other day, is that the asks have not been prioritized by the various respective committees. So I think what we have to understand is what is it that these respective departments are ultimately looking for. And again, once they all go through, figuring out what it is that we can accommodate. But if we go with 2, that's fine, whatever it might be. But I think it's important to understand, or at least what I'm coming to learn, is that all the departments are kind of submitting their wish lists, not in a prioritized manner. So if we go through, I'd like everyone to understand in terms of what it is that the needs are that are out there and what it is that's looking to be filled. And I think in doing so, by putting forth 4, it gives an idea, or a better idea of what the chief is actually looking for, or what any manager of any other department is looking for as well too. So, but ultimately, like I'm kind of sounding repetitive, but it's ultimately going to come down to what we can accommodate in the greater scheme of things.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do, sir. Can I speak, Mr. Chair? Yes, go ahead. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Just. Well, there's one thing I appreciate with the chief. I've been here now 5 years. His budgets sometimes uses the old shock and awe strategy, which what I noticed last night when I was going through it. I said, oh, okay, we got a lot on the table for today's meeting. And how much are we going to get through? Look, I'm of the position that in the end, it's the collective group that sits around this room, the 10 of us plus the office of the mayor, that makes a decision on the priorities that are recommended. And I'm quite comfortable passing these forward, but cautiously I'm being very cautious because of, again, it's where does the money come from? Where does the funding come from? And I'm glad that Dan is part of this meeting, Dan Jenkins, because we keep talking about a better tax equity share between what the province of Prince Edward Island collects and what we collect. And if we don't get a better share, then guess what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to raise municipal taxes. And at a time to raise municipal taxes, people can tell you that go to the Sobeys or Atlantic Superstore or anywhere, the cost is just getting out of control. So we don't want to be that additional burden. So yeah, I'll move anything up to the next level, which is finance, and eventually goes to council as a whole. but we need to look at what we can get from the province and what we can do as a group, representing many different facets of our community: fire, police, parks, recreation, planning, development, and heritage, and so forth. Those are the critical areas that we're responsible for, the essential services that are very important for the community. And I can tell you, Mr. Chair, you think this is going to be a hard budget with transit and the whole recommendation to expand our transit routes, there's going to be additional cost, a lot of cost. So that's one area. Then I can look at public works. You know yourself, we're having difficulty keeping up with repaving roads and streets because there's just not enough funding there. So again, I'll move anything up, but I'm being very cautious about this because it comes down to where's the money? Thank you.
Okay.
Chair.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
So just to reiterate what I said at the SPIC meeting the other day, so I guess I wonder, as a committee, doing our committee work is making a recommendation, but if we're not making a recommendation and we're just going to continue because we know it's going to finance either way and onto council, I say the same thing. What in the name of time are we doing here today?
I think the discussions that we're having about this is flushing out what questions could be asked at other levels, whether it's finance or at council, and that's the purpose of committee. Committee may not always look at forwarding recommendations, but the discussion, and I keep going back to the discussion, Chief of Police and Chief of Fire, is that, yes, we need these services. We made public safety a priority at that 24th, 25th November workshop. That is a priority. But where does the funding come from? That's what I grapple with, because I have to, for myself, any tax that we increase is going to affect all of us that are sitting around this, sitting in this chamber. So, yes, I understand what the deputy mayor is saying. There should be a recommendation. My recommendation is, as it will be for the 10 police officers, it's a cautious recommendation because we have to there has to be a flush out, a lot of discussion at finance and then at council. What do we do? Because all the budgets, as you know, Mr. Chair, they'll come out, all of these budgets from different departments will come to us all at once, and then you'll have a figure this high. This is how we keep taxes and services at this level. So how do we balance that out? And that'll be the discussions that will take place, which I think they'll be using some of this as reference.
Yeah, and I'm going back what the deputy mayor said, and I said earlier, are we supposed to send a recommendation up? Are we all in agreement? Because we heard the last few times in certain committees, well, there's no recommendation. I mean, from the committee. So do we send one up to finance or a recommendation saying that we approve this or we're in favor of this? Or what do we do?
Well, I think the deputy mayor said that was it two that just put two there? And the max is 4, so that could be, that's a recommendation right there.
And if I hear what his worship says is, he's saying move the 4 up cautiously. So I guess we, and he said the same thing with the 10. So if it's a cautious recommendation to move them all up, then, I can support that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want to sit around as council and then, which happened last month on one committee, and people are saying, well, what's the committee's recommendation? So defer it and send it back to them again. We don't want to get on that road again. So if we're in favor, cautiously, of moving this up to finance, I guess could you use that word and go from there?
Well, if I refer back through the chair, Counselor Beck, it was outlined to him by CIO Mohammed that the finance discussions at the other committees are not putting forward recommendations. So if that's the accurate case, and they're not, then we don't want to do an injustice to our productive services and our police services by reducing it, if that's going to, lessen the option to be a priority. So maybe going back to what his worship says, we cautiously recommend that all 4 go up to finance. If that's the case, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Counselor Beck, are you in favor of that?
Well, that was my point. I think every department is putting forth cautious, if you will, cautious recommendations. And so if we're going to be consistent with the other ones, I don't think any of the other committees, from what I understand, have got 100% endorsement on what they're doing. I think what's important with this is that we understand what the needs are and what the potential asks are. And then we have to figure out what we can look at the whole basket of asks and figure out which ones are going to remain in the basket and which ones are going to be taken out. Because the basket only has so much room in it. And we have so much finance available to us, and we have to decide how that's going to get allocated in as fair and an equitable and meaningful manner as possible. So I think what we should be doing is saying this is what the chief needs, this is what the chief of police needs, this is what the chief of fire needs, and then move it on and say, call it cautious recommendation, whatever we want. But I think it's important for everyone to understand what it is, what the needs are, and so that we can try and address them in the best manner that we can.
Okay, so do we have to vote on that or anything to move it up, or? Moved by your worship?
I'll move it.
Second by Deputy Mayor? Or sorry, did you have
Sure,
something to say?
just a point of clarification. So if that's the premise that we're moving that on to, should we just do move the 10 and the liaison officer at the same time? If we're cautiously
Yeah,
moving
no,
them all
I
out?
have some questions about the liaison.
Okay,
I think
gotcha.
that's a separate
Okay.
entity, right?
So then
Chief?
I second
Yeah.
his worship's recommendation to move the 4 up to finance.
Okay, that's 3-0, Mrs. Stewart. And the first one that we went through, we're moving that cautiously to a right, so that one 3-0 also. Okay? Okay, Chief, we're under new initiatives. Already on it.
So I just want to be clear on the new initiative. So we're going to continue forward talking about the need for 10 new officers and the communications person. Okay, thank you. Also, as recommended new initiative is that that we hire 10 new constables to be added in.
No, just a point of order, Mr. Chair. I think the deputy said that the 10 plus the 4 would be moved up, that would be a cautious recommendation.
Okay.
It's the
Yeah,
publicist or the media person I wanted to speak about.
Okay, yeah, that's
That's the one I want.
fine, okay.
Is that all right, Chair?
Okay, Chair, I'll regroup here and talk about our need for a community and media liaison, civilian person to be embedded within the police department. We need to create a position for community and media liaison, a civilian. Good police-community relations are imperative for developing trust between the police and the citizens. For many contemporary police administrators, media relations is the most important aspect of community outreach program. Today, the police see the many benefits of cooperating with the media. The media are often useful vehicles for making public appeals for information important to cases. They promote crime prevention efforts, and they can also help sell the value of agency services to local taxpayers. It certainly fits in within our strategic plan, which is a commitment to ongoing community engagement, robust and effective internal and external communication efforts, and transparency to strengthen accountability and trust. I can tell you that probably never in the past have we ever needed such a resource within our police services, and most modern police services our size have one. And for them to be a resource for not only the chief's offices, but as a liaison between local media, but also a resource to help build relationships with our community in times of need. And certainly, I think the last couple of years have been a prime example. Currently, we do the best we can in responding to many media requests, but we need to do better. We need someone to manage our website, keep up on our Twitter, help us support our citizens in their need for information about our services. I think all of that is proactive crime prevention and community building, and it's a gap within our services that we're currently offering. There would be a budget impact for this, and certainly we're putting it forth as a new initiative, and it would require a total investment, including wages and salary, of $107,920.16.
Okay, is that the going rate? I guess I was born in the wrong century or in the wrong decade. It's just unbelievable, like a lot of these things, is that the going rate, chief, that it would cost? Or, Jesus, I don't know where the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 jobs have gone. All of a sudden, we're up over 110,000, 107,000. It's just, I don't know, I'm just asking as an ordinary citizen, is that the going rate?
Chair, yes, it is. Certainly, we have to be competitive, and we took those wages and estimates out of our current band schedule, and for similar positions, and feeling, again, it's a challenging market. No matter if it's communications or policing, you would have to be competitive.
Chair? I do.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Chair. And I know that in our strategic priorities and intergovernmental cooperations meeting the other day, one of the new initiatives from the communications department was a new communications officer. So very much similar, the alignment in terms of salary range. So I'm just curious, just to kind of get out of our silos a little bit, would this position be the same position that was asked for through communications, because they had indicated that through the KPMG report that they did need additional communications in order to fulfill the needs of the city as a whole. So would that be the same position and instead just be going to Charlottetown Police Services, or is this separate and a standalone? And I don't have the answer to that, and maybe there is no answer. Maybe they just all get moved up and be flushed out. And I'm not sure, perhaps through you, Chair, to the chief, he could answer that, if it's even answerable today. Thank you.
I believe this would be an additional position. I've had no communication regarding that this initiative was already put forward. So I believe this is an additional position. It's a position I have asked for in the past years. As definitely a need, and certainly it's challenging time. We do such good work within our police service and supporting our community. We have much stories to tell, and I think everyone will benefit from the positive impacts this position would have, including mayor and council, our total community, and certainly in building recognition in our community that the great work our police services does every day.
Councillor Beck?
Yeah, I would recommend that we push it through. I'm not married to this one like I am the other ones. I think I'm not to dismiss the value of it or to try and not acknowledge that there is it is an important position that could be added. But I wouldn't want to move this on with a. I wouldn't. I mean, we'll put it forth that it is part of what the chief is looking for, but I wouldn't put it as a. I don't think at this time, given where we are with all the needs that we have, I wouldn't be looking to move this one forth, at least not at this time. But I think it's important for everyone to understand that this is still a position that the chief would like to have incorporated at some point in time. But I would move that we not support it for this particular year.
He said no, he won't support it for this year.
So, Mr. Chair, can I just follow? Look, the police chief and I discussed this last year with not last year, was it last year or the year before? I think when former chair in the 2018-2022, he was the chair, and that was when it was first brought up in that budget year. I can say this after my experience with Fiona, that two of the great spokespersons for the city were the chief of fire service and our chief of police. They were able to guide us through this public relations of what we were doing as a community, from fire and police services. Public Works were part of that effort. And I also said in the past, Chief McConnell, that, we have two great deputies, McCarron and Coombs, that are very qualified and that are good spokespersons for the department. Deputy Chief Kent Mitchell, great spokesperson for the Department of Fire Services. And then we do have our communications. And I think the deputy mayor did allude to the SPIC meeting last week, where there was a discussion about adding more bodies or more numbers to that department. And I think it's an additional 2 positions that comes. 1. So in the report KPMG, they said it should be an additional 2. And again, let's try to work outside the silos. Let's collaborate, because I know that I'm sure fire services could use a media person, or Parks and Recreation. Not to devalue the importance of a chief, but I just cannot support it. And I will be making that very clear. I'm not going to be going behind closed doors and talk behind your back. I'm going to be right up front that we just need that presence of police officers on the street, in the community. That's where my focus is. And that 6 plus 10 additional police officers, that's what I'm trying to, grapple with or trying to balance in my own decision-making going forward. But this position, to me, Chief, it's not the right time for this, because just, as I said, the cry out for that police presence in our community was so clearly amplified this past year, those 4 or 5 public meetings I attended, that's the direction I want to go in. Thank you, sir.
Deputy?
Thank you. And I do know that Halifax Police Services, whatever the actual name for it is, they actually have 4 outside of their regular communications team. So, and that being said, perhaps then so Protective Services, Police Services has indicated this, they ranked it as a priority A. as did our communications department with their requirement for a fourth person. So maybe as we go forward in future discussions during our budget discussions, we could look at further discussion around communications and how that role would work, and whether that person could be a person that does, 50% of their role is basically all police services, and the other 50% is through communications. I mean, there could be some way to get out of that silo, and that it could benefit not only the communications team overall, but also benefit the police services. Just a thought. I'm happy to move this up to finance like we did with everything else, and see, where those discussions lie.
Thank you, Deputy. So, oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate all your comments, and certainly, Your Worship, I thank you for your comments about how the fire chief and I have represented our departments in the past, and certainly there's always a need for times when we need to speak out. But I just want to add some clarity to what my ask is here. We're not looking for a spokesman for the police department. We're looking for someone to be a media liaison, to help deal with the frequent requests that sidetrack us every day, so we can focus on what's really important and guiding our agencies. I think you're undervaluing my ask here. I really do. I don't think you fully appreciate the benefit it could have to the greater city. I know it's tough times, but I really would appreciate if you would give this a look, a deeper look, because I think it is that important moving forward, and what we can offer to our citizens in the form of good communication about what's happening in our community for police relations and services. And I just want to add some clarity on the silo. And in fact, there needs to be a separation in communication from city proper and the police services. The nature of our business requires it. And so we need a level of separation there, as do all modern police services. And it's not about isolating, it's about being the perception of independence, especially in criminal matters, and the ability to have that resource to support our operations at the police department. So I just ask you, I know you have a lot on your plate, but I really need you to look at this request, because it is equally as important as the rest. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, again, let me be very clear, as I said last year, previous years. No disrespect, no taking, and in no way am I undervaluing this role. But when I look at our IT services, we share our services with police and all departments. And again, it's all about shared services, shared and strong departments. So that's where I'm coming from. And I understand where the chief is coming from. It is a community and media liaison, but it does, as it says here, plans and coordinates media events and activities, including news conferences, press briefings, interviews, and other opportunities to inform reporters and editors about the police services. That's just one that comes out to me as it's about media relations. It's about how we present our police services. And you know what? I know our police services project a very strong image in the community. We might have not heard that at the Birchwood Junior High School meeting, but you know what? Overall, when I was knocking on the doors in 2018, I'm sure you, Mr. Chair, and then Deputy and also Councillor Beck, 2022, that, there was a strong support of our police services and the integrity of that police force. I just think that priority is more boots on the ground, more presence in the community. That's where I'm coming from. No disrespect, Chief, I just can't support it. Thank you.
So the recommendation to not move it up to finance. The mayor's not in favor. Counselor Beck?
Yeah, again, I would echo his worship's words. I don't want to diminish the value or the potential benefit or the role or the value added component of this position. I think it's important for all council to understand what it is that the chief is looking for. Let them know that this is really an equally high priority for him as it is all those other initiatives. And then ultimately we decide what goes forth. But I think it's important that the council also understands that there's not, while we're more supportive, still cautiously supporting the other initiatives, this is one that we are not supporting from the committee level. I think it's important that they understand there's been a bit of a differentiation in terms of the asks that have come forth from the chief. But I think it's important for them to understand that the chief really would like to see this go through as well too, to respect his request and to reflect the discussion that's been held here today. If that makes sense.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I would support moving this up as a priority A, with the chief's explanation on that. I know I'm just reviewing here the same initiative, which I understand is totally different, but the communications department, who also prioritized theirs as an A, has similar things like needing this external and internal communications piece for the entire city of a whole. So I don't see this priority as any less important, if not maybe a little bit more. So I would support this going up, in my opinion, as a priority A.
Okay, 2-1. That it does not move up to finance. Am I reading that right? Counselor Beck and Mayor Brown says nay, and Deputy Mayor Yankoff say yay. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, do we have the capital budget here too, Chief? Is it the last page?
Yes, it is.
Yes, Your Worship, if I could just quickly go over the operational increase for status quo for next year. So, obviously in our budget for the operational salaries, we're very much salaries and benefits. In fact, we're projecting a $14,883,000 budget next year, with salaries certainly being most of those. In fact, all but $220,000 of the budget increase would be an increase in would be the salaries and benefits to our budget. So we're very modest in our operational budget and our increases, right around the 3% for all the items also, as the fire chief had mentioned. And I just wanted to point that out.
Just looking at page 32 where your operational budget is.
Yep,
So your budget for 2025 is, as you said, is 14.8 million.
yep,
And your revised budget for 2024 was 12.4 million, correct?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 20% increase,
That's about a 19.
19.5. I'm just rounding
Yeah.
up.
I
So
think what to keep important there is that the fact that includes the 6 new positions
Right.
at the first class rate, and a substantial increase in last year in our collective bargaining. We settled our collective bargaining, which is at a significant amount. to
Right.
that.
So just, we have to keep that in mind. That's, I'm going to try to compare that to other budgets.
Yeah,
I think Parks and Recreation were up by 5%. So just, again, that's a significant increase, and I understand where it's going. It's going to salaries and benefits. You're going from 11,040,000 up to your revised budget of 13.3, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move on to the capital budget now. So in our capital budget, we are, with additional new vehicles, we're going to be acquiring additional radio equipment. And so we're asking for $100,000 to facilitate the new vehicles with with radios. We're asking for $22,000 in additional ballistic equipment. With the new hires, there will be need for additional firearms, and we're asking for $6,000 to purchase firearms. We're also asking for another $6,000 for radar enforcement tools that will be used with the additional increase in workforce and vehicles. We're asking $6,000 for forensic equipment. Sorry, yes, let me lose my line here. We're asking $25,000 for additional forensic equipment, specifically a safe fingerprint development chamber. We're asking $5,000 for our surveillance equipment. We're asking to carry over $10,000 from last year's capital budget for the carbine noise suppressors, unspent money that we will need to spend this year. We're asking for to carry over $7,700 in carbine vehicle mounts due to the fact that our vehicles did not come last year and we weren't able to outfit them, and add an additional $5,000 for the additional vehicles that are coming. We're asking for another allotment of $49,000 to continue building our e-watch program. We still have significant investment from the public sector, but it's important that we invest in it also. And certainly there are areas of the city that are yet to see benefit of this program, and we're looking to expand, especially in the western part and northern part of our city. We're asking $20,000 for additional digital forensic equipment and licensing. We're asking $50,000 for small equipment and less lethal weapons options. And probably our biggest ask is $500,000 for photo and red light enforcement equipment. We're anticipating and hopeful that the regulations are coming to be finalized for from the provincial government, which allow us to enter into photo enforcement radar initiatives. And if that happens, we will need a budget to do that. And but you are looking at approximately $100,000 per installation, but it's certainly a good starting point. So if that is a big ask. Critical Incident Command. I think you highlighted in our budget presentation the fact that we need to build in our Critical Incident Command capacity. And we're asking for $200,000 for a mobile command post and community policing command post. We currently do not have a command post to do that, and certainly there's a need for us to build that capacity to support our incident commanders, our crisis negotiators, and our tactical operations in the times that we call them out. Tactical team equipment. Certainly our rapid tactical deployment and containment team has built capacity over the last number of years. And one thing that the team has asked for is a need for optical night vision for nighttime operations and deployments. And certainly, we put that, it's an ask of $160,000 to buy 8 sets of night vision equipment to support the team. And the guns and gangs, is a carryover from funding for capital from previous years. I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed capital budget, which would total $989,476. Keeping in mind that $500,000 of that would be allocated anticipation of the photo and red light enforcement equipment and regulations being finalized.
Thank you, Chief. So you're $1 million over in capital from last year. And operational is what, up 2 million from last year? That's what I'm, yeah. Okay. Any questions on capital budget? Councillor Beck?
Done.
No questions?
Are you there, Councillor Beck?
I'm here, yeah. I said I didn't have any.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Deputy Mayor has none, Your Worship.
So, Chief. So the difference is about 739,000 from your budget over last year. Almost a 250% increase. And I know some of the items you highlighted, like the $500,000 for the, is that the photo and red light enforcement equipment? Or is that 200? 5. So again, look, this is stuff you need. I can support this because it's a capital budget, you borrow the money, amortize it over 25 years. But if you compare that to operational, that's where the tire meets the road. So again, it's a huge increase, but your presentation warrants a lot of value to it. So I don't want to undervalue that it's a 250% increase, but it's what you need. And do you get it all this year? If the legislation doesn't go through, then that's automatically less 500 because that's the big hunk. That's 80% of it. But on that photo radar, other jurisdictions, Ontario, Alberta, you've looked at the best practices and how it's been taken to court, because of privacy, because of misidentification. Is that what the province is flushing through, or have you had any discussions with the Attorney General's office on this? Because I believe it goes through them, correct? His office? That would be Minister Thompson.
Yeah, both transport and justice would have parts of this, Your Worship. And certainly, yeah, there's, photo enforcement is not without its challenges. I think the best practice that we've learned from looking at others is really putting photo enforcement mechanisms in areas where they're really needed and have evidence-based data that supports their placement there, and not just putting it there at the call of a community, that there's evidence gathered to support the need for it, whether that's some sampling through speed radars prior to increased accidents, but certainly I think if the regulations did go forward, a prudent start would be to put them in school zones and certainly reduce any risk to students that are in that area, and certainly build community acceptance and understanding of the initiative through that approach.
So, Mr. Chair, just through you to the Chief of Police, back in early 2000, this was looked at by former Chief Paul Smith, and the province didn't have an appetite because of some of the issues, legal issues that were surrounding this piece of technology. But the piece of technology back then, and I don't know if it's different now, it required person power. It required someone to monitor it, someone to be trained in it. So it's not just buying the equipment. There's a specialization that will be needed to operate it and to monitor it. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. There's a certain amount of actual validation by a police officer that has to encompass this, and there's a lot of moving parts to photo radar, and certainly you could offer. Again, this is forecasting that these regulations may be approved, and as you know, putting some money aside, in fact, they are, but there would have to be a lot of discussion and presentation to committee and council about how this would actually work in our municipality before we move forward with it. This is just trying to, I just believe if it was approved through regulations, there's going to be a call from citizens to move this forward, and we'd want to not be prohibited by not having money to do it.
And Mr. Chair, just last comment, those speed monitors that you see on North River Road and all over the city, they collect a lot of data too. Number of cars, speed of cars, times, dates. So that will add to, I'm sure, what we will be doing with the photo and red light enforcement equipment. So it's plus plus. Thank
Your
you.
Worship, if I could just add, the other big ticket item in there certainly is 200,000 for the command post and community trailer, but I just want to again reflect on some of the lessons learned from some tragedies in our area, and recommendations coming out of the Mass Casualty Committee for municipalities to build capacity in instant command and emergency response. And so I'd be remiss as a police leader if I didn't put some money and advise council that there's a need to do so. Thank you.
Okay. So what do we do now? We move this on to finance also? Moved by Mayor Brown that the capital budget goes up to finance, and second by Deputy Mayor. Councillor Beck?
Yay.
Yay. That's 3-0. Okay. I think that's it, is it, Chief?
Chair,
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
can I get just a little clarification around the community liaison position that the chief was talking about? And maybe it was just through through the phone, I didn't hear it clearly, but if I was hearing Councillor Beck correctly, he indicated earlier on that all initiatives would be moved up to finance, is his understanding from other departments, and they'd all be put into a basket, and they would all be evaluated at the same time. So why aren't we putting that same lens on this position? Why are we making that different than every other thing that's been done apparently throughout other committees? Like it just seems kind of unfair. So I just want to make sure I heard it correctly, that we did have Councillor Beck and his worship voting to not prioritize that position, but everything else was going up the same way, including all the other discussions with other committees. So
Again,
just, you know, hear
Mr. Chair,
correctly.
point of order. So yay or nay, it still moves up the food chain. The recommendation will move up. One will be checked off and one will have an X next to it. That's all resolutions move up. It's similar to like we do at planning. If it's turned down, it still goes to council as a nay vote. And council could say, we don't agree with the nay vote. We want to turn that around, and then we have to have another resolution to
Sure.
support it. That's where I'm coming from.
And just through the chair, what I was indicating is that the other committees didn't do votes. It was, and that's what Councillor Beck was saying, that it was his understanding that we weren't sending up recommendations, everything was going up to finance. So I just want to clarify that if we're the only committee doing this, then it's inconsistent to what the other committee work has been done. And I totally understand what his worship is saying, that we're moving everything up regardless. But like in SPIC, we didn't make a recommendation from the committee. Everything just went up.
Yeah, and on that, and I was watching that committee.
Can I clarify that, Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, no, I never said, I want all this information to go forward. But to your point, Deputy, you were saying that you wanted to have, you were saying, well, what's the committee doing? We're not doing our job if we're not making any kind of recommendation. So I think we have to have a large, and I said this at the SPI-CIC meeting the other day, we have to have a larger discussion about how we're even tackling this, in my opinion. But the other part is that I want this information to go forward to council so that everyone understands what the chief is actually looking for. The part about not recommending it at the committee level is more in response to what you were, I thought I was trying to address what you were looking to say, that we should be making some kind of request at the committee level. And I think we sent a cautious approval on the other ones, on the 10 police officers, on the 4 clerks. We sent a cautious approval. And with the media relations person, we said we want to push the information forward so people have the opportunity to look at it. But at the committee level, we were not necessarily supporting it. So push everything on, give all the information, and move it on to the next level. But within the committee level, we had kind of 2 varying degrees. One was a cautious approval, and the other one was we didn't really feel that it was something that would be addressed at this time. But I think a larger discussion that we have to have is how we do this at the committee level. And I'm actually going to call His Worship after to discuss some of that. But for this particular situation, and yes, you are right, it's at strategic priorities, we kind of moved everything along. And I think we move everything along here with a couple of caveats. And some of them are cautiously approved, and another one is not recommended. That's all. But I think we push everything along to be consistent with all the other departments, because that's what they have done. They've kind of moved everything out. And again, I'm basing that information on what Eleanor told us at strategic priorities meeting. So I think we are being consistent in doing this. Push it forward, have the discussion, see what we can accommodate, and then ultimately make decisions.
Thank you for that, Councillor Beck. Yeah. and-
Chair?
Oh,
Whenever
go ahead, Deputy
And
Chief.
thank you for that, Councillor Beck, and appreciate that and agree with you. And not that this has anything to do with this meeting right now, but in strategic priorities and intergovernmental, everything just moved on without any discussion at all. It just went ahead. We didn't say whether or not, because if that had been the opportunity, there would have been a chance for us to converse around whether or not all of the priorities that we heard at that meeting were going forward, but instead everything went forward. But I do get what you're saying, and you planning to have a further conversation with His Worship around that. And so, thank you.
Yeah, the bigger discussion here is, look, over the last year, we're trying to formalize a lot of our procedures, like as we did in the amendments to the procedural bylaw. We wanted more background information from our managers and staff before going up to a committee level for discussion. They'll get a recommendation. But the chief knows where I stand on this particular issue. I wasn't supportive of it last time, the first time you brought it up, because I'm a firm believer of more boots on the ground, more presence in the community, no disrespect, no devaluing of what he's proposing. I think we have a great team of managers that can speak very well to the public, but it's not just that, as the chief said, it's about social media, about press releases, dealing with inquiries from the public. I get all that. But in the end, sir, there are recommendations moving up to finance. Some are cautious, some are clear from a vote that was taken on the media relations person, and I'm sure you'll see that in other committees, reflected in other committees. Thank you.
Okay,
Chair?
Go ahead.
If I could just say one more thing. I do believe I heard Chief McConnell say, this is nothing to do with a spokesperson. This is actually about a person in the community with boots on the ground, liaisoning with the community and police. So, but I still respect what his worship is saying. It's still moving up, and we'll go from there. So thank you.
yeah, and thank you. Gee, it's been a long one today, Chief. But there's a lot of good things in there and a lot of good discussions, and I'd like to thank everybody for spending that much more time with us. But as we all stated, it's a tough time of year for everybody. It's budget time, and we got to look at things out there. And I keep saying, if you bring in $100,000 in your household, you can't spend 110. But anyway, we're going to look at things, and they're passed on to finance, and then we'll all sit down as a council.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second by Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Beck.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I see you get it.